You ever notice how some guys just walk into a room and you can feel their ego before you even see them? Like the guy doesn't even need to speak. His arrogance speaks louder than his words. Maybe you've dated one before. You know, the type who thinks he's God's gift to women. And here's the real kicker. The more you give him attention, the bigger his head gets. But what if I told you there is a way to shatter that bad guy's ego without breaking a sweat and without letting him mess with your peace of mind? Stick with me, because in this video, I'm going to break down the psychology behind why these men act the way they do, and 5 strategies you can use to stay confident, keep your power, and stop wasting emotional energy on toxic men. And I promise you, once you master these, you'll start seeing arrogant guys differently, almost like they're little boys playing dress-up in a man's body. So first, let us talk about the psychology of this whole idea of shattering a bad guy's ego. Why is it so appealing? Well, research shows that our brains love the concept of justice. According to studies in social psychology, humans get a dopamine hit when someone who's arrogant gets humbled. It's like watching the villain in a movie finally get what's coming. Women, especially in dating, crave balance because too often they've been on the receiving end of men's games, ghosting, breadcrumbing, gaslighting, love bombing, you name it. So when we talk about shattering his ego, what we're really saying is, you stop giving away your power. You're not playing his game anymore. And that's the ultimate ego destroyer, because most of these guys thrive on control, attention, and the idea that you need them. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's 29, gorgeous, smart, and has a solid career. But when she met Jason, this smooth-talking guy who acted like he owned every room he walked into, she fell for him fast. He love-bombed her in the beginning, lavish compliments, spontaneous texts, late-night calls, the whole package. But then, slowly, he started pulling away. He'd ghost her for 2 days, then breadcrumb her with a "Hey, miss you" text. And Sarah? She was confused, frustrated, and starting to question her own worth. Sound familiar? That's the exact trap many women fall into. But here's the thing. Sarah eventually learned to turn the tables, not by fighting with him, not by begging for attention, but by shifting her own behavior in subtle, confident ways. And that's what this video is all about. Point 1. Stop feeding the ego monster. Here's the thing. Arrogant men survive on admiration. It's their oxygen. A study in personality and individual differences shows that narcissistic personalities thrive when they receive external validation. So, the moment you stop feeding their ego with constant praise, they start to crumble inside. Instead of saying, "Wow, you're amazing at everything," flip the script. Next time he brags about his promotion or his gym gains, just say, "That's nice," and move on to a new topic. Trust me, silence and indifference are louder than applause. You know what I mean? Point 2. Boundaries are your best friend. If I'm being honest, this is the one most women struggle with. Because we're taught to be accommodating, to go with the flow, even when the flow is drowning us. But boundaries aren't walls, they're doors with locks. You decide who gets in. For example, if he texts you at 2 a.m. like you're just an option, don't respond. If he tries to turn everything into a situationship instead of a real relationship, call it out. According to marriage counseling experts, boundaries not only protect you, but actually create respect. A man who can't handle boundaries is showing you he's emotionally unavailable. And girl, that's not your project to fix. Point 3. Emotional intelligence is your secret weapon. Here's the funny thing about bad guys. They know how to play with emotions, but most of them don't know how to handle a woman who's emotionally intelligent. Research shows that emotional intelligence, being able to regulate your emotions, understand others, and communicate calmly, reduces conflict and increases respect in relationships. So when he tries to gaslight you with "you're overreacting" instead of yelling, just respond with "I know what I felt, and I trust my perception." Watch his face when you don't take the bait. It's like taking candy from a kid. Point 4. Flip the script on power dynamics. Here is a little secret. Guys who thrive on arrogance usually need to feel like they're in control. But when you flip that script and show that you're perfectly fine without them, it shakes them to their core. Think of it as psychological judo. You use their own energy against them. Take Anna, for example. She was dating this guy who constantly pulled away, then came back when she was about to move on. Classic push-pull dynamic. Instead of chasing him, Anna started focusing on her own life, going to yoga, spending time with friends, posting pictures of her new hobbies. She wasn't even doing it for him, but guess what? He suddenly started blowing up her phone. That's the thing. When you stop orbiting around his ego, he realizes he's no longer the center of your world. Point 5. Recognize the red flags early. And let S be real here. Sometimes the best way to shatter a bad guy's ego is simply to walk away. Believe it or not, research shows that narcissistic personalities experience a kind of ego injury when people leave them unexpectedly. That's why ghosting works on them more than it works on you. But here's the smarter move. Don't wait until he has drained your self-esteem. Spot the red flags early. Love bombing, breadcrumbing, emotional unavailability, manipulation. These are all signs. When you see them, call them out. And if nothing changes, leave. Because nothing bruises an arrogant man's ego more than realizing he can't control you. So, in a nutshell, the way to deal with bad guys isn't through shouting matches, revenge plots, or endless debates. It's through subtle shifts, starving their ego, setting boundaries, using emotional intelligence, flipping the power script, and knowing when to walk away. At the end of the day, confidence is the biggest ego shatterer of all. A confident woman doesn't need to break a sweat. Her silence, her standards, and her refusal to play games do all the work. And honestly, I could be wrong, but I think a lot of you watching this are already stronger than you give yourself credit for. You just needed someone to remind you that you're not crazy, you're not too much, and you're not asking for the impossible. You just want healthy relationships, clear communication, and real love. And you absolutely deserve it. So now, let me ask you, what's one ego-driven move a bad guy pulled on you, and how did you handle it? Drop it in the comments, because I'd love to hear your stories. If this video gave you some clarity, hit that like button, subscribe, and join this community of women who are done wasting time on toxic men. Because together, we're not just dating smarter, we're living stronger. Would you like me to also draft the hashtags plus optimized YouTube description for this video so you see